This is Jeremy with Reviewed.com, and this is our review of the Olympus 75mm f1.8 lens. For anyone who's looking to get started with mirrorless cameras, you've got to have Olympus on your list. They've made tremendous strides with the Micro Four Thirds system, and their cameras routinely rank at the top of our lists. So the M.Zuiko 75mm f1.8 lens is no exception. It's built solidly, it's extremely sharp, and it produced beautiful bokeh in our tests. But there's an obvious downside. The lens has an unusual focal length. It's a 75mm lens, and that translates to a 35mm equivalent of 150mm. That's certainly going to limit you. You won't be able to get good shots indoors, especially in cramped spaces, and you might just not have that much experience working with this kind of focal length. But there are also benefits. The lens is fantastic for close-up headshots. It can also work well for sports and wildlife, and it's sharp enough to handle distant landscapes. But just don't expect this lens to be a workhorse that can handle just about every situation. At its widest, the f1.8 aperture is great for low-light photography, especially when using it with an Olympus pen or OMD camera that has in-body image stabilization. Keep in mind, though, there's no stabilization on the lens itself. The design of the lens is very minimal. It only has one physical control, and that's a large, very smooth focus ring. The lens also does not have focus markings stamped on the lens itself. Clearly, this was a lens made with autofocus in mind. This lens is not weather sealed, but aside from that, it's very solid. It's all metal. It even has a Made in Japan label on the bottom. The lens comes in silver or black, and despite showing off the silver version in this video, we actually prefer the black one. The silver one just doesn't quite match the color of silver Olympus camera bodies, which is kind of a shame if you care about those things. Like most fast primes, the Olympus 75mm f1.8 produced images that were exceptionally sharp at the center, but what makes this lens special is that it actually maintained great sharpness even to the corners. The lens also kept things sharp across its aperture range, and we saw the sharpest images come at f4 to f5.6, but for the best combination of sharpness and smooth bokeh, we recommend shooting at f2 or f2.8 with this lens. Those results were fantastic. Speaking of bokeh, the out-of-focus areas captured by the lens looked great. Just being nitpicky, there was a bit of inconsistent shading, and light at the corners of the frame appeared a bit squished sometimes, but on the whole, this is a lens that stands up well even compared to some full-frame portrait lenses. The Olympus 75mm f1.8 retails for around $800, and we think that's a fair price for a lens of this caliber. But if you don't have that kind of money, we like the Sigma 60mm f2.8 art lens as a cheaper alternative. Now, if you want to step it up, the Panasonic Leica Nocticron 42.5mm f1.2 is your best bet. It is twice the cost of the Olympus 75mm, but it comes with a metal lens hood, it has a fancy aperture ring, and it has built-in image stabilization. It's also the best Micro Four Thirds lens we've tested so far. But for its size and price, the 75mm f1.8 from Olympus is a terrific lens. And if you can handle the awkwardness of the 75mm focal length, it's some of the best mirrorless glass you can buy.